All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Laurie Zabala, the Senior Manager of Science Initiatives and Outreach at Research America, and I'm very excited to moderate today's conversation. Before we kick it off and hear from our panelists, I'd like to introduce Claire Pomeroy. She's the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Lasker Foundation, who generously sparked these public engagement content awards through funding from the Lasker Foundation. So I'll turn it over to Claire.
Well, thank you very much. And it's wonderful to see so many people online. And as you know, science and medical research hold incredible power to improve our world. But at this moment, anti-science sentiment and mistrust of scientists really imperils that promise. So we are so fortunate to hear today from three people who are innovatively addressing this challenge, winners of the Public Engagement Content Awards. The Lasker Foundation is very pleased to help sponsor the stipends for these winners, and that helps support curriculum development in science communication and public engagement. To the winners, you inspire us. I am confident that you will inspire the other people on this webinar, and I am confident that you will change the world and build trust in science. Thank you for all that you are doing.
Thank you so much, Claire. And now I'd like to turn it over to Jenny Luray. She's the Senior Vice President of Strategy and Public Engagement at Research America for some opening remarks.
Well, Claire, you inspire all of us too with your passion and your commitment and your optimism as well, which we all need right now. The idea for these awards came out of a working group that Claire was part of, the Public Engagement Working Group that Rita Allen supported in 2024, and Fanuel, who will be a discussant later, was part of that effort. The idea was, let's let 1,000 flowers bloom. Let's see what early career scientists could come up with in terms of different approaches for public engagement. What communities did they see around them that really needed attention, and how could we best sort of skill up scientists to engage with those communities? There is some incredible scholarship around the country around science communication. This is a sort of more grassroots approach, but I think the two approaches are incredibly important. The Dana Foundation also jumped in and has funded a number of the awards that are neuroscience related. Just briefly, before we get to the main show, scientists have a visibility issue. Only a third of Americans can name a living scientist. I mean, how many Americans can name a living athlete, a living professional ball player? Only half of Americans can name a health or medical research institute. And only a half know that research funding is in all 50 states. The NIH budget alone, over 80% of that research goes across the country. But at the same time, they want to hear from you. They think that it's part of the job of scientists to share your research with the public and with policymakers. So that is in part what motivates Research America to be in this important space. And I'm just so excited to hear more about these wonderful projects. And I'm going to turn it back to Laurie Zabala, our fearless leader, who has been managing this program. Take it away, Laurie.
Thanks so much, Jenny. And now I'm going to introduce the stars of our show, our inaugural Public Engagement Content Awardees, leaders in helping scientists connect meaningfully with the public. Joining us today are Brean Prefontaine, a postdoctoral researcher at Duke University, developing tools to measure the impact of public engagement. Saurja Dasgupta, assistant professor at the University of Notre Dame, creating a modular science communication course using writing, art, and social media. Taissa Lytchenko, a graduate student at the University of Nevada, Reno, designing neuroscience education for incarcerated youth. We're also joined by Dr. Fanuel Muindi, professor of the practice in civic science journalism at Northeastern University and founder and director of the Civic Science Media Lab, and he'll share for his reflections throughout. Some quick housekeeping. We'll begin with brief presentations followed by moderated discussion and audience Q&A. So drop your questions via the Q&A box anytime. And definitely stay tuned for info on the next award cycle at the end of the session. All right. Well, so to kick things off, I wanted to ask all of our awardees, what inspired you to apply for this award?
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
What inspired you to apply for the Public Engagement Content Award?
Should I go first?
Sure.
I can go first. Honestly, so again, as Laurie said, I'm an assistant professor at the University of Notre Dame. So my day job is to lead a research group, biochemistry research group, and teach students here. But science communication has always been a sort of integral part of my professional life for a long time now. And I've always held this view that practicing scientists should be the one to directly communicate their science to the public. And honestly, the last few years, this belief has solidified during the COVID pandemic. And I decided that I should actually now go ahead and create a course that would empower practicing scientists, postdocs, grad students that are in the trenches doing the hard science, so that they can actually talk about science to the public. But I never did anything about it because life gets in the way. But after this award, this award kind of forced me to get off my chair and actually do something about it. So thanks for that.
I would also like, forgive me, I'm a little bit under the weather, so today's the day that I lost my voice, but I would also like to say that I was a participant in local outreach since I was an undergrad at my university, and it really it got me passionate about this work. And down the road, when I became a graduate student, when I found out we were actually monitoring Research America Awards for some time, especially for the Civic Engagement Award. And when the opportunity came up about this public engagement for building curriculum, this was just such a perfect fit. And we shot in the dark, and we're like, let's do this. Let's see how it goes. I attended some webinars, and we really thought that it was going to be a good fit for building the curriculum that we've spent roughly about 10 years developing. So this really skyrocketed our work, and myself and my team are very grateful that it was just the right place, right time, exactly for these awards. So thank you very much.
I guess similar experience to what the other two panelists said. I did a lot of public engagement and informal education stuff when I was in undergrad and graduate school. And then I actually took a unconventional path through graduate school. So I actually left with my master's, and then I worked at a research firm, and there I learned all about evaluation. And I started thinking, like, we're not doing anything to evaluate, at least like not we in general, but me and what I was doing, the groups I was working with, we're not doing anything to evaluate how well we're doing public engagement. And then I started talking to a bunch of other folks who also do public engagement and found out that that's a pretty universal experience. And when I saw the call for proposals to make content or curriculum content, I was like, we should make something to help people learn how to evaluate. And so that was sort of where my idea came from. And I got really excited about trying to help folks think through the evaluation process and think through how to make their public engagement better than it already is. And it's already brilliant. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us what inspired you to apply for the award. So now let's turn to the presentations by the awardees so they can give us an overview of their curricula.
Okay, so I'm going first, right? Okay, so you can all hear me well? Okay. Really, again, it's great to be here. As I said, I'm an assistant professor, started last year at the University of Notre Dame, but I've been really interested in science communication, especially science writing. Okay, there are slides. Could you go slideshow mode, please? Perfect, great. So as I just mentioned, I've been associated with a popular science publishing sort of organization for some time, and I've been wondering that the things that we have learned in speaking to the public and writing for the public, we could probably use that to create a course that would actually let the next generation of scientists do the same thing. And I've really realized as an assistant professor that my time is very limited in actually going out and engaging the public. So I need to sort of do an amplification where I can train the next generation so that they can go and be missionaries of science communication, if you will. So next slide, please. Yeah, okay. So, right. So as I said, the motivation behind this course is I believe that the practicing scientists know the real nuances of science and doing science. So they should be, especially in the age of social media, they should be the ones to directly reach out to the public and explain scientific concepts. There's obviously this huge wall in between, but a course that focuses on graduate students and postdocs, people that are actually doing the science, would really, I think, ramp up our science communication efforts. So this is a course that is designed for them. It has 3 modules, as Laurie just mentioned. So one is on popular science writing, the other one is on sci art, and the third one is on leveraging the power of social media to amplify science communication efforts. And as you can imagine, these 3 modules sort of feed into each other. I've realized more after starting this is it's actually an incredibly difficult thing to do, which is why I've enlisted help from experts for each of these modules. If you go to the next slide. I mean, there is not enough time to talk about this course, obviously. So I'll tell you what we have done in the real world by using the principles that we have laid out in this course, right? So I've led popular science writing workshops at Notre Dame with my students. Really encouraging feedback from both undergrads and graduate students. In fact, these workshops have led to published articles. You see one here, which is written by a student and also illustrated by another student, both of them practicing cell biologists and RNA biochemists. So no training in science communication before. If you go to the next one. So in collaboration with Club SciRai, which is a popular science publication that I help run, we have started this virtual popular science writing workshop series. These are two of the flyers that we have made, and as you can see here from the flyers, art and science kind of go together in whatever we do. So if you go to the next slide, I can show you what this workshop was about. Right. So the goal of this virtual workshop is, again, this allowed us to reach a global audience. So the first iteration, we got 80 registrants from 6 different countries, actually 3 different continents, which is pretty good. And because our workshop is a workshop, not a webinar, so it's very intense and it's very hands-on, so we cannot accommodate more than 10 participants for one workshop. So we plan to do 8 workshops to accommodate these 80 registrants. We did 2 of them already, and we're going to restart our efforts from November. But what's really important is, again, we were talking about conversion rates a little earlier. From the 2 workshops that we have led, we've already got several submissions, and we think 5 of them are good enough to be published on the Club SciRai website. 3 of them are already published, as you can see here. So I encourage you to go on their website and check them out. And we'll publish the next 2 in the next few weeks. Next slide, please. So in terms of sci art, this is a collaboration between Argo Manna, who is a professor based in India, and he works at the intersection of science comics and history of science, which is, I think there are not many people like him, honestly, and this is not an exaggeration. He's one of a kind. And we collaborate on different things. He visited the US over summer this year, and we held this science comics workshop, again, so which is a part of the course, where we had Notre Dame students, faculty, postdocs, grad students all come in, 2-day intense workshop. This is the flyer you see here. What I want you to really notice is the box, the box with the red outline. These are zines that were generated in this workshop within a matter of hours by people that had no prior training in making science comics. It's incredible. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see how. If you could just go to the next. Yes. So we actually displayed these science zines that these participants created, again, within a few hours in a big exhibition that we had, which was about a different project between Argo and me, which was about creating the first ever graphic novel to tell life's origin story. So we had a section where we displayed these zines. Again, you see that I thought the exhibition was quite successful, but the biggest attention, the big draw was these zines that these participants made over a few hours in this workshop. So I'm really happy with that. Again, part of this workshop, we launched 2 comic books on the origins of life, which is, again, not directly as a result of funding from Research America, but I think it sort of tells you the kind of interdisciplinary approach that we're taking for this course. The last slide. yeah, I want to wrap up very quickly because I have other folks that want to go. But the idea is, and I've been talking to several universities, including Notre Dame, and Notre Dame actually is starting a science communication, a minor. But I really want this to be something that graduate students and postdocs can benefit from. So I'm going to try to see if we can work around that. I've talked to faculty at Indian University South Bend, IIT Gandhinagar in India, St. Xavier's College in India. So I've been speaking to a lot of people. I have lots of confidence in this course. It's still in the process of being completed because it's really a difficult thing to do. But once it's completed and evaluated, I think we can really go out in the world and make a difference. Thanks. And happy Halloween. That's why I'm dressed in orange.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Saurja. Next, we'll go to Taissa.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Perfect. I really appreciate being here and telling you a little bit about our Nevada Connected community. This is a project that was kind of stemmed from roughly about 10 years ago. It started out with our with our faculty advisor, starting a partnership with a local juvenile justice facility and coming into the justice facility and teaching the kids about the brain. So we would bring in real human brain models and animal models and teach all about neurons, how the brain is structured, how it functions. And we would come in roughly about twice a year. And that's how I got started as an undergrad in this program. And it really resonated with me. I continued participating in this program all through my undergrad and my graduate work. And it was really in my graduate work that it developed into something more where we actually sought out funding for this. May I please have next slide? Thank you very much. So the big problem that we are trying to address is that especially in short-term juvenile justice facilities, our students receive significantly less instruction time. Majority of the time is spent on online education. I also am a substitute teacher at this juvenile justice facility, and I've seen firsthand what online education is like, and the hands-on piece, the missing hands-on piece from it is quite detrimental to the children, just because it's a lot less engaging to be sitting in front of a computer compared to actually doing the work hands-on and being engaged in the project. Now, we are really trying to address this this inequity in health literacy. And predominantly our students, our population is actually coming into the juvenile and detention facility for a number of reasons. Predominantly it's violence against other people, property, drugs, public order, technical violations and status offenses. And our health literacy curriculum can really address these types of challenges, and in teaching students about social connections, how to understand what substances do to the brain. This really did become, when it first started out as just basic neuroscience education, it has now stemmed more into teaching juveniles about what the brain does and how substances and disorders and disabilities manifest within the brain as well, and what research shows us. May I have next slide, please? So our solution to the problem really started, as I mentioned, 10 years ago, but it really skyrocketed with Research America micro grant, because it allowed us to develop this curriculum into so much more than just the few lessons that we were teaching at the time. We actually started out with one lesson. We had 5 lessons about 2 years ago. And then with the Research America micro grant, we're now up to 16 interactive health literacy focused neuroscience lessons. And our target population is the juveniles within the short-term facility. Honestly, they come from a variety of educational backgrounds and ages. They're about anywhere from about 12 to 18 years old. And their stay is one of our biggest challenges, and that is anywhere from about a day to a year. So we don't quite know how long we're going to get the students in for. We go in now weekly instead of just a couple times a year. And we provide lessons with with guided notes and anonymous quizzes. So that way we're able to kind of collect the feedback of whether the students even like our curriculum and how successful they are in learning the material. But our secondary beneficiaries are graduate students that we recruited as part of the Research America microgrant to actually help us develop this curriculum into the lessons. And we also recruited special education disability study researchers to help us vet the curriculum, that it is actually at an accessible level for the kids. May I have next slide, please? And our results have been really promising right now. On the left, you're seeing some feedback from a student within the facility. They're really excited. This is what I've learned. This is, these are the directions that I want to go in. One of the main points of feedback from our students is we wish we had more time, and we fully understand that. Sometimes lessons vary between 15 to 20 minutes to 40 minutes to an hour. We never really know what we're getting into, just because it is a very secure facility. So we go in and we just go with the flow. But our juvenile student feedback has been really positive. One, their accuracy is actually really surprising. I'm really excited that they're excited about this material. And our graduate student feedback has also been very positive from the graduate students that developed the curriculum, was saying that they really enjoy developing lessons for the juveniles in order to make informed choices once, hopefully, either if they get placed in other facilities or if they get out. And it is one point of challenging feedback that we are really trying to address from graduate students is provide clearer guidance on what not to say. And that's really difficult, especially when our curriculum deals with substances. So what can we talk about? What can we talk about, especially when it comes to topics such as fetal alcohol syndrome, and how do you retread those kind of conversations carefully? Part of our future directions is one, to submit a policy memo with JSPG. We'd absolutely love to do that. I actually have a workshop next week that I'm participating in that will hopefully launch me into creating that policy memo. The second one is we've been really looking at the Dana Foundation Education Grant for some time, so I'm really excited to put something together with our team. And then lastly, based on the feedback from our juvenile justice staff and management, they would really like for us to expand the mindfulness series, a mindfulness lesson, into a full series, which we are working on now, finding creative ways of doing that, possibly with downloading a mindfulness app onto their iPads that they get within their pods. But we're seeking what is the best way to do that within the secure settings that we're in. Now, with that, I would like to, one, thank Research America. This could not have been possible without you. This really skyrocketed within the last year. And also thank all of the sponsors that we've had throughout the years. Without their support, this would have never gotten us far. And we are so excited to keep this team going. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Taissa. Now I'll turn it to Brean.
Hello. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, my project was about creating resources for public engagement practitioners around evaluation. So how can folks who are already doing public engagement know if their efforts are going well, how to improve things like that. So next slide, please. So I sort of mentioned my motivation a little bit, but I just want to say I've talked to a lot of informal STEM practitioners and public engagement practitioners, and I'm hearing over and over again that when it comes to evaluation, people feel overwhelmed, or they feel under-resourced, or they're just unsure where to begin. I'll say for me personally, I did not learn about evaluation in graduate school. If I had not worked at a research firm, I would not know what evaluation is. And so I think it's one of those things where there's a lot of resources out there. We can go learn about it, but it's not something that, at least in my experience, it's not something that I learned about in school. But I do think it's very important to understand what is going well and what could be going better for our public engagement work. So the goal for my project was to create curriculum to help people get started with evaluation, or to think a little bit deeper about the evaluation they're doing if they're already doing a little bit. And I kept my audience broad. So it's really any STEM public engagement practitioner who's currently doing no or very little evaluation on their events or programs. I tried to keep it broad in terms of like what kinds of events or programs this evaluation approach could be useful for. I do think if you're engaging in media, so if you have a podcast or a YouTube channel or things like this, things like that, maybe your evaluation approach might be a little different. So I'm more thinking about in-person events or activities or workshops or even virtual activities or workshops. And that's sort of what I'm thinking about now, but I would like to expand my evaluation resources for other activities. Next slide. So when I was thinking about the curriculum, this is what I came up with. So I'm really hoping that my curriculum kind of walks someone through the whole process of evaluation. So I start off talking about what is evaluation and why you should do it, how to identify project or event goals, and then to turn those goals into evaluation questions that guide your evaluation, how to think through data sources and a data collection plan, how to create data collection instruments. So this is a big one. Everyone wants to Google and just have a survey that's that they can use, or a set of questions that they can use for their evaluation. And the reality is that's not really what is out there. And also that doesn't make for good evaluation data collection, right? So we want something that's very specific for our event or program that we're evaluating so that we get specific information and feedback. So learning how to create data collection instruments is like a big place where people get stuck. And then once you have the data, like how do you analyze and interpret that? That can be really daunting if you've never done that before. So I talk about that a little bit. And then the whole point of evaluation is to use your findings to improve what you're doing or to know what you're doing well. So how do you go about using your findings is something I talk about. So I use this curriculum to run a workshop. So I partnered with PlasmaNet, which is the Plasma Network for Engagement and I am forgetting right now exactly what PlasmaNet stands for. Sorry, Plasma Network for Engagement and Training. So it's a group of public engagement practitioners who are focused on plasma physics. And so my background is in physics, and so I went with the folks that I knew. So I know the PlasmaNet folks, and so it was a great partnership. And I ran an in-person workshop in West Virginia, and I quickly learned that you cannot talk about everything in this curriculum in a workshop. There's just not enough time. And so I talked about the bolded things here, mainly, how to get started with evaluation, how to think about goals and questions, and then how to create data collection instruments. Next slide. And so with that workshop, there was really positive feedback, but like I said, there was not enough time to talk about everything. And so I feel like my project evolved at that point because I was trying to think about how do I package a curriculum that's maybe self-paced, that lets people spend as much time as they'd like to spend on it. And so I started thinking about a workbook, and I started developing a workbook. I was really hoping the workbook would be finished by this webinar, but it is not because life keeps getting in the way. And also I'm learning it's really hard to create a workbook. But here's some screenshots from the workbook. And the idea is to take the curriculum and put it in sort of like a self-contained file, like PDF file that you can download or print out, and then it'll walk you through each step of the evaluation process. And then I'm also, I found that there's a bunch of evaluation resources that a lot of great people have put together. And so I'm also using the workbook to point people to certain resources about certain topics throughout the evaluation process. Next slide, please. So I mentioned the workbook is not finished. So I also want to mention this project is ongoing. So I'm really hoping to finish the workbook by the end of this year and have that published so that people can easily access that. And then I also, I mentioned I partnered with PlasmaNet to run the in-person workshop in West Virginia. They had such great we got such great feedback that they asked me if we could continue partnering for evaluation workshops. So we're actually running an evaluation workshop series based on the curriculum that I've put together. The first one is on Tuesday, and the series is open to anyone. You don't have to be doing public engagement relating to plasma. So that QR code will take you to the registration for the series. But I just want to say that the curriculum that I developed is helping me do more things related to evaluation. So I'm really incredibly thankful for the funding from Research America, because I get to move forward and continue making this workbook and do the evaluation series. And next slide, please. Yeah, this is just my last slide. I just want to say, feel free to get in touch if you have any evaluation questions. I'd love to talk about those things. And then this is also just another QR code. I compiled a Google folder with all the resources that I was able to find that I found helpful. And then I have slides from my workshop and a draft of, well, actually, there's not a draft of the workbook because that is not done yet. But that is all. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Brean. And I want to, again, congratulate our wonderful awardees on the great curriculum they've created. I'm sure, you know, those who have participated have gained a lot of knowledge and insight into public engagement. So now I'd like to dive deeper into each of your curriculum now that we've gotten a general overview, starting with Saurja. Your slides are very visually engaging, as would be expected in a science communication course using art and writing. Since one of your curriculum modules is sci-art, could you, for those of us who are not doing sci-art, what is it? Why is it a valuable medium for communicating science to non-scientists? And can you talk a little more about an example of sci-art?
Sure. So first of all, I'm a terrible artist, so that should caveat everything I say. But I know the right people. So sci-art could be any form of art that accentuates a scientific concept or a scientific ethos. That is my definition of sci-art. And it could come in many flavors. So I can give you like 3 examples right now. So one, for practicing scientists, a sci-art can be a scientifically accurate illustration, like a graphical abstract that actually sort of translates the science that you find in the paper into a succinct summary figure, right? Then sci-art could be a figure that captures in abstraction, the scientific concept. For example, for neuroscientists, we know that the connections in our brain are extremely aesthetically appealing, if you can sort of represent that. So an abstract representation of the brain connection is actually sci-art, but it's not maybe scientifically accurate. But it evokes wonder, and I would argue that is maybe more powerful than an accurate representation of science. And the third example, obviously, is science comics, because in science comics, we are trying to tell a story of how life was born. And if you want to tell a story, you need characters. And in our comic book, we are characters. The scientists that made the discoveries actually appear. They are characters. So it pushes the story forward. So I think that narrative is really well captured in form of a graphic novel. So these are a few examples. You could have many others. Like we've also had in our exhibition landscapes, where we are trying to tell the audience, look, these are the places on Earth where life could have emerged 4 billion years ago. And these are large landscape images. So that again evokes a sense of wonder and also scientifically accurate. So yeah, that was, I guess, answer the first question. And your other question was, why is it important? I mean, it's quite obvious, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words, especially concepts that are too complicated and are behind layers of jargon, which is the wall that I was talking about. It's very, for example, origins of life is my area of research, and it happened 4 billion years ago. So it's very useful for us to start to imagine how the Earth would have looked like 4 billion years ago. That really sets the tone for the research. And so I think images are really, really important in that regard.
Thank you, Saurja. I wanted to get Fanuel's quick thoughts. Fanuel, you did a civic science fellowship with Research America, in which you did a landscape analysis of civic science training programs for scientists. Did you come across many courses offering instruction in sci-art?
So one thing I would like to just start off by saying is terminology matters. And in this broader landscape, you've heard words of civic science, science communication, and those words mean different things to different people. And so that's something that I would like to just set that up. I think there was a question in the chat there, Grace Benson, who had asked that science communication being sort of one way, right? But it depends who you're talking to, because some people see science communication as also bidirectional as well. It just depends on how they define it. But to your question, Laurie, not as much, but they do exist. Usually the issue is terminology, right? Detecting them makes it harder because they use different terminology. But there's definitely a slew of them out there in terms of concentrated in some pockets, and are difficult to find. So I'm really excited to see this curriculum, Saurja, that's going to be out there. And one of the things I was thinking about as well is how are you going to be tracking that multiplier effect you mentioned at the beginning, right? Once it's out there, how would you track how other people are modifying your curriculum, right? And potentially launching these things locally. As you know, that's very difficult to track long term, but something and this is for everybody, right? Doing these curriculum developments. But Laurie, yeah. So we have that database on, and I'll put in the chat there, where we continue to track these trainings, and terminology is the hardest part usually that I run into.
Okay. Thank you, Fanuel. And I just want to make a note to our audience. All of our awardees curricula is available. They're open access. You can go to the Research America website to get a link that'll direct you to their curricula. Next, I wanted to move to Taissa. And I wanted to note that Taissa, because her project was neuroscience focused, was generously funded by the Dana Foundation. In your first slide, you showed the photos of your colleagues. I know that 11 STEM and 3 special education graduate students, you mentioned them, helped plan your curriculum. How did you approach training them to adapt neuroscience content for incarcerated youth?
Thank you very much for that question. I think predominantly it was really nice because we already had one of the lessons that was ready to go last year, and then part of our pilot, we developed 5 additional lessons that we piloted in the facility at the start of the year prior to the actual microgrant taking place. So we did the legwork ahead of time to see how do we best tailor our curriculum to the time constraints that are in the juvenile justice facility, and how do we translate that information over to our graduate student curriculum builders. And we essentially gave them a pilot lessons, or a few pilot lessons. For an example, this is what a lesson should look like. We also asked them to condense down the information. So prior, we used to have these about 20 slides for each one of our lessons. We learned very quickly that 20 slides are split between multiple days for our students. So we asked them, please take the work and cut it down to 10 slides with only 3 points per lesson. So that way we can really, and at the start of the PowerPoint, create an outline of what we're going to go over, and at the end of the PowerPoint, create a discussion of what it is that we went over. And we also had an editing process to these. Some of these we're still editing now by having presented them first round in the facility. We're now seeing, okay, we need to even cut this information even more for certain lessons and make it a little bit more general. So actually, for our one of our future plans is to make these lessons even more simple in some ways. We noticed that some of our slides that were returned were a little bit more wordy. This is where our special education and disability study researchers are coming in handy. They're saying, too wordy for this one. You need to cut this down. It needs to have more images, and that way you can walk a student through a figure, which would be more helpful for them to kind of conceptualize what the actual concept is compared to reading the slides. So just because we're not quite sure what the level of skill our students are coming into, since many of our students are typically there because they have not been in school for quite some time. So I think it's a good mix between training our graduate students. This is what we're looking for, and now also asking them to kind of come back and say, having done this lesson, this is what we now need from this lesson. So it really is for our lessons, it's an iterative process where the editing is really coming in handy based on our actual physical experience within there. But our graduate students were really superstars. They were from all disciplines within neurosciences, and they came to the call, and they really, how would I say it, saw that this is an amazing opportunity for them to do something more with their neuroscience education that they're receiving as part of their graduate studies. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that process with us, Taissa. I really loved the slide with the handwritten response from one of the incarcerated youths. I think it really speaks to the tangible impact your curriculum is having out in the world. And speaking of impact, I wanted to turn to Brean. In the context of public engagement, why is evaluation important?
Well, I think the really simple answer is we need to know if we're doing a good job. So it's great to go out and do public engagement, to create public engagement activities. But if we don't know if people are liking it or what the impact is, then there's no way to improve it, and there's no measure for what we're really doing. And so, yeah, so I think the very simple answer is, how do we know what's working and what's not working, and how do we know how to improve things? And that is why I advocate for evaluation for everything.
Yeah, totally agree. Fanuel, you and we've had many discussions. We're huge proponents of evaluation, and I know you interviewed Brean for your Civic Sci TV network. By the way, folks, you can find that YouTube link on Research America's awardee webpage if you want to see the full interview. What do you think scientists doing public engagement work would find most helpful about Brean's curriculum?
So yeah, I had a great chat with Brean recently, and I'm just having even more questions now as I keep hearing her talk. I think part of this is really just making it more accessible. It is really hard to do evaluation. It's a constant pain point that I hear all the time. And so I think, Brean, congrats to you to try to undertake this. As I asked you in our interview, there's lots of resources out there, right? How are you going to make this sort of easier for people? And I think you're trying to do that, make this into a workbook so that anybody can use it. I think one area, to answer your question directly, Laurie, is in even the grant writing part, especially for public engagement type of work. You can think of using the workbook that Brean is creating to say, okay, how can I use that to start thinking about how to evaluate this thing, right? So that when the grant organization looks at this, at least they have a sense that, hey, you are thinking very carefully about how you're going to assess both outputs and outcomes. And Brean and I went into that differentiator there. So I think it is that, I think the plug-in point of this workbook, which I'm really excited, Brean, once it's out for people to digest and give you feedback as well, right? How it's operating on the field, I think would be very useful. So the grant is one area I see it now being an immediate part, because folk are trying to do this work, right? And especially at that point where they're writing grants to support it. So.
Well, thanks for your thoughts, Fanuel. I wanted to bring in Jenny really quickly. I know she has a lot of thoughts on public engagement training, so I wanted to hear from her.
Thank you. Thank you, Laurie. Great presentations. I wanted to follow up on Fanuel's comment about the different terminology involved in this movement. And one of our audience members, Grace Benson, asked whether or not civic science influences what we do. And civic science is at the heart of what we do. Civic science is really an umbrella term that science communication is part of, participatory-based research is part of, citizen science is part of. It's really a constellation and of all the critical ways that the science community and the non-science community can work together. So we are very much part of that world and very committed to it. And we fund many projects that are, very deliberatively taking input from the community. And I'm assuming, Taissa, I'm assuming that as you built your curriculum, you involved the students. And your curriculum grew based on the feedback from the students, what was working, what was not. This was not something that was a one and done that you presented, that you developed and then presented. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify. And back to what Fanuel said, people use science communication in many different ways. For some people, it's learning how to present your paper, which is not necessarily, public facing, right? It's more a skill in terms of your engagement with the science community. So terminology matters, but in this burgeoning area, sometimes terminology is used in different ways.
Great, thank you, Jenny. I'm going to ask one last general question to our panelists before I turn it to the audience Q&A, make sure we have time for that. So to our panelists, thinking back on your projects, what were the biggest lessons you all learned while developing your curricula?
So in my case, as I mentioned, it involved many people, not just me, and they all have day jobs. So it was a little difficult to coordinate and get things moving initially. And it always turns out to be harder than you think when you propose something. But I think the common denominator was that we were all really, really passionate about this. So we kind of made it work. But again, working in the team, getting people together, different time zones, different countries in this case, is a little tricky.
I would like to add that during I would definitely agree with Jenny. This was a very feedback-driven building of the curriculum. So it's making sure that the stakeholders of for our specific curriculum, for the stakeholders that are receiving this curriculum, are they actually receiving it in a way that is useful to them, that is also within the time constraints that they have, and that really getting their feedback on how we should change our curriculum was one of the most important things. So it's one thing for us to develop these lessons in the way that's useful and meaningful to us as scientists, but it's another way to actually hear what our population really needs and wants, and presenting it in a way that they find to be most relevant. And I always try to, with our students, whenever they give me feedback, that you have this lesson on I don't know, social connections. Could you bring, and you talk about all of these hormones that are kind of associated with this, and all of the neurotransmitters that are associated with this. Can you bring something tangible in that we could talk about? So, and also, especially when we talk about substances, can you bring in a brain that might resemble something like this? So, for us, it's finding what are the hands-on components that we can then add in with our curriculum, but also that would be allowed within the facility. So it's kind of managing all of these different stakeholders, but making sure that the actual voice of our curriculum recipients is represented here. Thank you.
For me, it was trying to figure out what would be most useful for people. So I proposed doing a workshop, like creating curriculum and then hosting a workshop. And then, as I mentioned during my talk, that I quickly found out you can't talk about everything there is to talk about in relation to evaluation during a workshop. There's just not enough time. It's a lot to digest. People are at all different stages and where they are with their projects and thinking about evaluation. And so, making the pivot to the workbook was kind of like my way of responding to that challenge. But then thinking through, workbook has taken a long time because I've been talking to a lot of folks and trying to think through, like, okay, now what goes in a workbook? What is too long? How much is too much information? What will get folks started but not be too daunting? And so I think really just like finding the useful way to communicate about these ideas to people has been really difficult. And it's just involved having a lot of conversations with a lot of different people.
Fanuel, I saw your hand earlier. She wanted to...
Yeah, I just wish we had way more time to like get into this, but I'm gonna just target this question to Saurja. So in terms of impact, you've heard Brean talk about impact, right? Evaluation, all that. For you, what metric moving forward would be keeping you up at night, or will be telling you that, hey, this curriculum that's out there now is having the intended effect? What are some things that you are going to be thinking about, you and your team?
Okay, so part of the curriculum, of course, curriculum is something that stays forever, lives forever, and then different institutions use. But we are also trying to use it ourselves in form of workshops, as I just mentioned. So that is practical application of the principles that we are using in our curriculum. And again, engagement, like I showed you, like we did this workshop, virtual workshop with 17 participants, and we have 5 articles that we think are good enough to be published. I think that is really a good indicator that this works somehow. And then, of course, once this is done, we are making these connections with these different universities, and at least one of them sure are going to is going to incorporate this curriculum immediately as soon as it's done. So then we can actually see, because we already have our platform, say Club Sarai for for popular science writing. So once these students then go out and share this curriculum with other students, then they can start writing, and let's see if they can actually generate articles that are good enough for publication. And we have an outlet now to do this. The other thing is that we have this thing called Michiana Science Cafe in South Bend, which is also a great initiative that Research America might think of funding sometime in the future. So we have once a month, we have a speaker from Notre Dame speak in a cafe to the general public in the South Bend community. So now, if we incorporate this curriculum at Notre Dame or in some local colleges, and then we can have these student speakers go out in the community and share and talk about science, having been trained with this curriculum, and that could be a good metric to see if they're actually interested and if it works.
Now we know what keeps you up at night. Thanks.
Other things as well.
Well, all of you, wonderful work. It's definitely helping shape the future of public engagement with science. I want to turn to audience questions now. Saurja, one audience member had asked, do you think there is space and value in a curated sci-art exhibition to tour art museums and or public libraries? And do you know if anyone is doing this already?
Sure. I'm sure that, so I've seen but this is another interesting example. So I can now think of sci-art being a lot of microscopy images. If you go to Chicago O'Hare, you will see, or even South Bend Airport, you will see lots of microscopy images. Those are good sci-art examples. But we are actually going to hold this exhibition at one of the local libraries. I think there's a lot of scope for this. It's incredible. Local libraries, public libraries are a great way for families to come in and enjoy science. We are actually holding something similar in December in India. We have already taken this on the road. So we're going to have 3 exhibitions in India in December. Not library, but a science museum, a children's science museum in Mumbai. So I think there's a lot of scope for this. And again, libraries are a great example. There's something called a Lang Lab in South Bend, which is a very sort of eclectic mixture of people have like slam poetry nights there, exhibitions there. Again, we're trying to hold this exhibition once again in Lang Lab in South Bend as well.
Great, thanks for sharing that. I think this next question is best poised for Brean. How do you get feedback from people who are being engaged with the public / non-scientists without making it feel like you're studying them?
This is a great question. And it's a challenge. I think the best advice I have is to embed your data collection into whatever activity you're doing. So so people are creating like some kind of product, like maybe they're making art, like sci-art, then maybe your evaluation data collection is examining the products that people are creating. Another fun thing to do is to offer incentives. So I was just talking to someone the other day who wanted to like have talks at scientists give talks at breweries, and they wanted to like figure out how do we evaluate the audience participation in those talks, or if people are liking those talks in that setting. And I said, well, people love stickers, so maybe incentivize them providing feedback with a sticker. Maybe there's a brewery sticker or something that you can offer them in exchange for them taking a very short feedback survey. So I think either embedding your data collection into whatever you're doing or offering really fun incentives kind of, makes it a little bit easier for people to give you feedback without feeling like research subjects.
Great, thanks, Brean. there's one last question in the Q&A box. I think this is best for Saurja, but anyone can respond. Can AI tools be used to create good SciArt? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, this is something that I tease my artist collaborator that you're replaceable. I'm going to replace you very soon with AI. But I know that that's not true. And you can, if you look at some of the things that we have created, you'll very soon realize that. The idea is that the thing is, AI can only, as you all know, AI can replicate things that exist and maybe sort of consolidate things that exist into something that may appear new. But if you're really creative and you're really creating something that's not been done before, and this has not been done before. For example, the story that we are telling is this: a scientist and artist that are talking about the origins of life, and we're teaching each other. And then these characters come in and they sort of merge into our story. This has not been done before in this sphere. It's almost like a Socratic like dialogue. And then nothing like this exists before. All the information has been taken from scientific articles, primary scientific literature. So I don't think AI is going to be able to do this anytime in the future, at least the next 10 years or so. But I am not an anti-AI person, so I feel like it's like the calculator. Like once it's there, we have to learn how to use it. So maybe down the line it will. Who knows? So we have to keep getting more creative. I think that's the challenge.
Great, thank you. I'm going to ask one last question before I turn to talking about the upcoming cycle of awards. I wanted to pose this to all of our panelists. Saurja had mentioned that his science communication course is going to be offered as a minor at the University of Notre Dame. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Oh, I want to just clarify. So this is again, this was I'm in conversations with one of my collaborators, Kate, but this is a course for undergrads, and my focus is mainly grad students and postdocs. So we have to find a way to work that into it. So that's because undergrads, I think, already have some sort of science communication course in different universities. Grad students and postdocs do not. So my passion is actually doing it for them, but that's definitely an option.
Great, thanks for that clarification. So my question is, public engagement isn't always easy to embed in academic settings. What institutional challenges did any of you face, and what do you think needs to change? And Fanuel, I would also like your thoughts on that, since you have interviewed many civic science practitioners about, get your thoughts on institutional challenges and what needs changing.
I would love to kind of start this off really briefly. Part of our curriculum building, we were actually thinking, we have service learning courses for our undergraduates to do outreach work within our community that's teaching students, teaching K through 12 neuroscience. But we were thinking about doing a service learning course through the university for graduate students based on service learning. I think one of our biggest challenges with getting that to fruition would be enrollment. So are our graduate students interested, and are their PIs willing to let them enroll in a service learning course at the university level? And how big of a course do we do this? Do we do this based solely focused on our neuroscience program, or do we expand this out to as a service learning course for all graduate students to take and create a curriculum for whatever discipline that they're looking to do? So I think our biggest challenges is like, how big or how small do we want to do this, and will we actually have the enrollment that we need for something like this? But that is definitely on our list, on our team's list of things to explore.
I would like to just see the topic of evaluation come up in existing courses. So maybe they're service learning courses, maybe it's a statistics course, maybe it's like a research methods course. I think just there's a lot of places where we talk about either doing public engagement or collecting and analyzing data, that we could also talk about evaluation and how that could be really helpful. So yeah, so I think just inserting that topic into existing courses would be amazing.
Right. Fanuel, 30 seconds before.
Yeah, and even less than 30 seconds, hopefully. The big thing is coalition building. I think if you're located at a university and you're trying to do something, don't try to do it alone. There are other people within your local setting you can connect with and start working together to embed things in existing courses, to even launch brand new things. So apply for grants that are out there. So just don't try to do it alone. Reach out to folk in other places as well. There's knowledge. It's just contained in different pockets. Reach out, ask. Worst thing that could happen is they don't respond. Try again. So.
Thank you for that. So I wanted to close out by saying thank you to our awardees and Fanuel for sharing your insights. We're deeply grateful to Claire Pomeroy and the Lasker Foundation for their central role in launching the awards, and to the Dana Foundation for supporting neuroscience-focused projects. Briefly, for the current application cycle, this year, Research America's civic science programs are generously supported again by the Lasker Foundation and also the Rita Allen Foundation. Applications are open for both the Public Engagement Content Awards and the Civic Engagement Microgrant Program are open right now through November 21. If you want to learn more, we'll also be hosting combined information sessions on November 7 and 12. There'll be the links are already dropped into the chat and on our website. Please share these opportunities. We're excited to support more innovative projects in the coming year. Thanks again to our panelists and to you, the audience, for being part of today's conversation. We hope you stay engaged and have a safe and happy Halloween.